Good evening. I have 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Greg David? He is absent.
Is he online?
Or is he-
Sorry, here.
Okay.
Oh, okay, he's here.
There
With
he
the audio
is.
on.
There he is. Okay, Mr. Greg David is present, and Mr. Tyler Dean appears is absent. Okay, Miss Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Brandon McIntosh,
Present.
and Mr. Mike Proctor.
Here.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Dean did show up after all, so we'll get him. We'll add him to the list. So we have all five are present then. Thank you. This evening we have retired Pastor Gary Green from Gospel Assembly to lead us in prayer. Pastor
Mayor
Green.
Bernard, it's always an honor being with you. Thank you for having us. Let us all reverence God with bowed heads, eyes closed as we pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we always want to start by giving heartfelt thanks, appreciation for all the opportunity, progress that you've given our community here. We thank you for those willing to lead. Bless our mayor. Bless each council member with good health and unity. I feel a necessity tonight, Lord, to also humbly ask for peace in the world, and this war in Iran would be finished soon, that you might grant us all somewhat of a predictable economy we can maneuver through successfully. We pray, God, tonight, asking for your guidance, your wisdom, and support. As we engage in meaningful discussion tonight, may our council and our group draw closer together in the nurture bonds of community. May you fill us with your grace, Lord, as the decisions made tonight affect so many. We just pray for every citizen here be granted from the least to the greatest consideration in all matters. Remind us that all we do here today and all we might accomplish in this meeting is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in the name of your Son, Jesus, that you raised from the dead on the third day. Yes, his name is Jesus. We pray these things in his name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in pledge of allegiance to the American flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is to determine if there are any agenda additions. Does anyone have any additions to make to the agenda? And hearing none, we'll move on to discussion and approval of the appropriations ordinance. This ordinance it includes the expenses from February 25th through March 10th, and those expenses amounted to $1,059,000 and some change. The reported expenses of those expenses, $575,000 are for infrastructure costs for new developments, and those costs are paid through special assessments. Any questions concerning the appropriations ordinance? And if there is none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McIntosh.
I'd like to make a motion to approve appropriations ordinance number 26-05.
Motion by Mr. McIntosh, a second by Mr. Proctor. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. City requested appearances. We have none this evening, so we'll move on to citizens' concerns, and I have 5 cards. So the rule on the citizen concerns is we'll ask you to come to the podium and speak in the microphone. We give you 3 minutes to speak. Please start with your name and address for the record. And the first one I have on the list is Richard Weber. Mr. Weber. And I do run a timer on these, so if you hear it, you'll know your time's up, okay?
Gotcha. Okay, no problem.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to talk to you this evening. I know I went only 3 minutes. I have some concerns about the proposed bike path, and that's what I'd like to address the council with tonight. I have already emailed you guys about a month ago with some of my primary concerns, so I'm not going to rehash those, but I do have several other things I'd like to bring up. First of all, behind my house, the path is actually going to go right through my backyard, basically through my lot, through my backyard. And my concern is that one of the concerns I have is that I'd like to bring up to the council is that quite often when we have saturated soil back there and we get a lot of rain, real heavy downpours, that whole area where the bike path is proposed floods. And we get not only just standing water, but we get water that kind of moves through there. So it's a lot of water that kind of goes from east to west through there. And I'm wondering what impact having a sidewalk coming through there or bike path is going to have as far as that flooding goes when we have those few days a year where we get real heavy rains on saturated soil. So I have some concerns that maybe the sidewalk might push the water maybe closer to my house or maybe further away. So, you know, I'm not an engineer, but that's something that I think really needs to be looked at. And also when we have that flooding, the water doesn't really go away right away. So we may have several days after the rains where there'd be standing water back there, and that could be a problem with the bike path as well. Let's see, I want to thank you guys also for posting online the packet that you had this evening. I had a chance to kind of go through that a little bit. And I did see something in there that kind of had a couple of questions about, and that was sidewalk maintenance. So when the bike path goes through there, you had something that's indicated that Kansas, there was a Kansas statute apparently that says that if a sidewalk, if land is a property owner is adjacent to a sidewalk, they're responsible for repairing that sidewalk. So if you guys put a bike path through there and I have land adjacent to that bike path, am I going to be responsible for any repairs to that sidewalk? Anybody answer that question for me?
I think that, and I'd have to make sure with an engineering study to make sure I'm right about this, but I think that would be outside of your requirements to maintain because it's a right-of-way issue, and it becomes a city right-of-way. But I cannot tell you that for a fact because I think there needs to be some homework done on that to tell you that.
Yeah, because I read through it and I really didn't get a clear answer on it. So I don't know if it's, you know, so.
Yeah, if it's in the city right-of-way, we maintain it, but in your neighborhoods, you have to maintain the sidewalk. So, okay.
Is that my 3 minutes already?
That's your 3 minutes.
Oh, man, that went quick. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, I have Mr. Don Bostwick.
Don Bostwick, 6273 East Central Park Court. For those of you that are looking at your map, Central Park Court is a little J-shaped street right off of Woodlawn, and it backs up to the right-of-way that the pipeline has. When we were buying, we noticed that you have a 20-foot easement across the front of our property to build a sidewalk, and there is no sidewalk because there's no traffic. And that's one of the reasons when I was turning 80 and we were looking for a place to go, it seemed like this was a perfect idea. We're off the beaten path, we're out of the way, there's no traffic, and we have a backyard that leads all the way back to the tree line. And we own to the tree line because the property description takes us clear back. So we are the fee owners of the entire lot back to and including the area where it meets the fence that's within that tree line. And we built our house with our master bedroom facing that area. We've got a sunroom that faces that area. And that's less than 20 feet from the edge of the pipeline right away. So if you decide to put a line in there, we're going to have a street in the back of us and a street in the front of us. And you may think that's not a lot of traffic, but if we get all the bikers, which I'm for the bike paths. So what I really want to say is, of the three options you're looking at today, I'm not going to comment on three. But on 1 and 2, I think it would be best for you to do the alternate and go down to 45th. You're working on 45th to give access and access to areas. You're working on 53rd to do the same thing. I just don't know that it's necessary for you to go through everybody's backyard. And that's what you'll be doing, is going through my backyard, not next to it, but through it. So I just hope that you take that into mind and realize that some of the areas that are here, like Rich in my place, we're pretty small because we're patio homes. And that property and that tree line is very important to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Mark Raby. Am I saying it? Sorry if I'm not saying it correctly.
My name is Mark Rabe, and I live at 5027 North Lake Breeze. It's not in this current phase building, but if it expands, I'm still going to be affected by my house back up to the pipeline also. And I did attend the meeting, the February 17th, and I did hear a lot of I felt valid concerns about having the bike path on the pipeline. I'm not going to go through them all here, but I did express my concerns in an email to you guys. I think some of them I got response from, but I feel that like the two speakers in front of me, privacy, number one. When we bought our house in 2007, that was the main issue we were looking at when we wanted to build a house. And it come down to that lot being perfect, being private, back to the pipeline and to the tree line behind us. And as said before, that bike path behind us would lose all privacy that we have now. It's the reason we purchased the house, the reason why we're there. And number one issue was privacy, but also the second issue in our particular location is drainage. From Woodlawn, it drains down towards behind where the pond is, and that water runs all down the pipeline. And if there is a sidewalk there or a back path, it floods our yard currently the way it is. I have sort of some pump in our backyard to relieve some of the water, standing water from all of the drainage from the pipeline easement. And I'm afraid it would be worse if there was a bike path going down that way. I'm not against bike path. We are bikers, but I feel that there's plenty of options, 45th, 53rd, running along current roadways would not impact any residential properties currently, which the bike path on the pipeline would cut through a lot of Bel Aire that feel is not necessary. And I do support option 2 for the bike path in this current form. I would like to know if option 2 is voted for tonight, if the pursuant of future bike paths is still going to be on the pipeline in the future. And thank you for listening to me.
I'm not sure we're in a position to answer that question, but maybe. We'll see what happens when we have the discussion. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Kelly Misra.
Good evening, Kelly Miza, 5816 East 49th Street North. My only concern is with a bike path going through residential properties. That's all. I attended the other meeting. And, I share the same concerns as others as far as privacy and tree line. I am for a bike path, just, a smart one. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Excuse me for a second. I get my phone to cooperate with me. Okay, next we have Miss Rebecca Gallo.
Rebecca Gallo. I'm at 45th and Highland. I too have attended some of the meetings before, and I just would like to say that I would like you guys to hopefully vote no on that first option. I'm not anti-bike path. I'm anti-bike path in my backyard for all the same reasons, for privacy. I mean, we like to use our bike or our backyard a lot for family activities. Reducing that would obviously limit what we could do. So I think that it would seem more wise to put them in more common areas, 45th, 53rd, anywhere else other than in my backyard. So that's really all I have. So thank you.
Thank you. And those are all the cards I had. Were there any other citizens that wanted to speak to council tonight? Please state your name and address for the
Yeah, it's
record.
Kent Barnes. I'm at 6269 East Central Park Court. And just like the others, and there's a few other neighbors of mine that couldn't make it that have our property on the pipeline that goes all the way out to the hedgerow. And there's drainage problems, there's privacy problems. I would have a real hard time if, the first option was voted yes. And I would not be happy with that. I'll just let you know. And so I've already talked to some other people about if that happens, what we would do. Okay. But I am in favor of the bike path. Like I said, the 45th and 53rd is good. I think there needs to be a sidewalk, from 45th to 53rd on Woodlawn. Someday Rock Road needs to have some sidewalks. That's kind of a dangerous area. So I think there's other considerations for the funding that you have or it will get in the future. Also, I love if you would work the Woodlawn from 37th to 45th, get that straightened out. When we moved here, that was a problem in 2021. It still is. So I think that's something that's a lot more important. Thanks.
Thank you. There are a lot of activity going on in that Woodlawn project. So hopefully we're going to get it started here very shortly, but I don't have a date yet. So, okay. But thank you for your comments. Okay. That was all the citizens' concern comments I had. So we'll move on to council member reports and we'll start with Ms. Hamburg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Thursday, March 5th, attended the Bel Aire Chamber meeting. Councilmember Proctor was the speaker, and he did a great job. Friday, March 6th, I attended where Mayor was the guest speaker at the Pachyderm Club, and he spoke about the various property tax proposals being considered in Topeka, and kind of how that would affect us at the local level, and caps, how that could create winners and losers. As of right now, I don't know if they're going to get anything passed. It seems like they're throwing barbs back and forth between the chambers. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Saturday, March 7th, attended the Sedgwick County Association of Cities meeting. The new, relatively new appraiser who was appointed a couple of months ago, she spoke about the process. One of the frustrations people have is that when they file an appeal, oftentimes it's denied. That's not such a bad thing in the sense of they are appraising these appropriately within the tolerance for market. She talked about that process, but one thing she mentioned that I will mention is that the appraisal office is not going to know if you have like a foundation issue or something interior where you could legitimately get your appraisal reduced. So you need to let them know about things like that for sure. Appreciate the new park and the rec overseeing that project and Public Works at the rec center. It was totally packed on Saturday. I don't think they could have safely fit any more kids in there, and we've enjoyed it a few times as a family. And did want to just thank everybody in the room who came 4 weeks ago and all of the feedback on this project. It's been tremendously helpful to hear all of this feedback, and appreciate it. So thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. McIntosh.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a report today.
Thank you. Mr. Proctor.
Yeah, I've gotten emails and messages from a number of citizens, and I appreciate all your feedback around the bike path. The talk was a lot of fun over at the old SCED building with Scott's hospitality to let us use the space. So glad you all came, by the way. And not a lot else to report. I guess I mean I don't know that it's relevant, but the thing I submitted feedback. Anyways, thank you so much.
It's your opportunity.
It's okay.
Okay.
So we're
Very
good.
good. Thank you. Mr. Dean.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a few things. Thank you. So on March 5th, I attended a WAMPO committee kickoff meeting for behavior safety initiatives that they're doing. It's in conjunction with what they call the safe system approach. So just bear with me. I'm going to describe what that is. So the core principles are, it's a framework based on the premise that deaths related to transportation are unacceptable. Humans make mistakes. Humans are vulnerable. Responsibility is shared, and safety must be proactive. The key elements of this approach focuses on shared responsibility to make sure our transportation system is safer. We have safer people, roads, vehicles, speed, and post-crash care. The intent of the committee's work is to meet 3 to 4 times in the next several months to work on and produce a toolkit that'll be available to communities to help with communication on things relating to safer driving principles, to help with just that aspect, making people safer, because we know they're a part of the solution to making safer transportation. On March 11th, I attended a meeting with the city staff and Wichita Public Schools to discuss the changes at 53rd and Woodlawn intersection, and then the improvements along Woodlawn for the 3-lane striping, the crosswalk, and the 4-way stop that we recently approved. Also, the potential for them to modify or expand their school zone, update signs, times that the signs would run, and speed limit. So we'll see what comes of those, but I know staff is working to coordinate all of that. And then on March 13th, I attended a meeting put on by the Regional Economic Area Partnership, or REAP, which Bel Aire is a member. It was hosted at the Kansas Leadership Center downtown. The topic was a regional convening on data centers and learning more about the challenges and opportunities those types of developments bring, and the related infrastructure, economic, and other factors to consider as our county and local communities work through how to best regulate these types of larger industrial projects. I will say, if anybody's interested to watch that, I learned that they posted a recording of that presentation on their website. It's at www.reap-ks.org. That's all I've got. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. David, do you have a report?
Nothing to add other than I heard a rumor the mayor celebrated a birthday last week, so belated happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. We try to keep that under wraps. All right. Thank you. So happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. So March 5th, I attended the Bel Aire Chamber of Commerce as Mr. Proctor had done a great presentation there on and that was a different perspective on how to look at balance in your organization. And I appreciated that. Information is a little different than from, it's using a DISC profile assessment, which is different than when you go hire somebody, you look at their qualifications, their background, and that kind of thing. But this is a different way of looking at things. And I don't think it's in place of, it's just an additional tool, right? So, but it was a good presentation. So thank you for doing that. And then on March 6th, I made an update presentation of property taxes with Packenham Club. And thank you to our council president, Emily Hamburg, for introducing me as the speaker. that seemed to be well received. On March 7th, I attended the Sedgwick County Association of Cities, just as Ms. Hamburg has also reported. And we did update the bylaws of that organization at that meeting, which a committee of us had gotten together to do. And it was interesting to hear the issues that they're doing with the county appraisers. And I think they're going to look at doing some things to make it appeals more visible and more open. So I can't tell you what their plans are on that, but I think they're working on some ideas there. March 8th, I did represent the Bel Aire at the Mayor Lily Wu's State of Wichita address, and she talked about being more transparent and building citizen trust as a result of the failed sales tax ballot initiative. And from a handout, I was able to see that approximately 38% of Wichita's revenue comes from property taxes. So that was an interesting note to see. On March 10th, I made another trip to Topeka to talk about House Bill 2571 before the Senate Committee on Local Government Transparency and Ethics. And that hearing went pretty well, and there were some additional changes made to the bill. This bill is to help share the cost of shared roads. So Bel Aire has shared roads with Sedgwick County. We have shared roads with Wichita. And this was to help encourage agreements on sharing the cost of those roads. Unfortunately, while there seemed like from the committee discussion, we had a good possibility of moving forward with this and with some changes that were going to be made. The Senate committee actually pulled that and used that bill as a vehicle for other legislation, which effectively killed it for this year's. So I am in conversation with the League of Kansas Municipalities to redraft the bill for pre-filing in December. On March 12th, I was invited to attend a Derby Chamber of Commerce meeting. They had an interesting presentation by their police department on how they worked on changing their culture. Every organization has a culture, some are better than others. So I think there's some good ideas there to learn from the presentation. And I've suggested that Bel Aire's Chamber maybe consider inviting the Derby Police to make that presentation at the Bel Aire Chamber meeting. I also attended on March 13th, the data center convening meeting that was held downtown that Councilmember Dean attended. That was an interesting learning exercise, but just keep in mind there are no data centers going to be built in Sedgwick County because there's a moratorium on them. So nobody's building any today. That doesn't mean they won't when the moratorium expires in June, but we'll see how that works out. House Bill 2745, which is a bill to limit tax increases, property tax increases in the tax committee with several changes, but I understand that it went to the Senate floor and was pulled by the Senate president, so it didn't get voted on. I don't know what the status of that bill will be. As Ms. Hamburg had alluded, there seems to be some infighting because 2 weeks ago, I reported that Kansas Senate passed the SRC 1616, which would limit assessment growth to 3%, which I have opposed because it sounds like a good thing, but there are winners and losers. More people will see tax increases from that bill than will see tax savings. And so that's not a good thing to do. But that failed on a House vote floor, so that constitutional amendment looks to be dead for this session. So we'll see where this goes. Hopefully they'll come up with something that give us get some sanity in property tax relief for everybody. So with that, I'll move to City Attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last council meeting, there was a question about what items are we required to publish in a newspaper versus on our city website. And I just wanted to share a little bit with council. There are, according to statute, many items can be published on our city website, but there are some that require more. It's just not sufficient, such as any type of lease purchase or land acquisition. So if the city were to acquire land, we could publish it on our website, but we would have to go even further and we would have to publish in an actual newspaper as well, which is what our process is. We publish everything on the official city website, but then for those that require that extra step, then we also go to Ark Valley News. Same thing for anytime there's a public improvement, anytime there's a treasurer's report, neighborhood revitalization, transportation development districts, eminent domain, revenue neutral, intent to exceed, anything involving the budget, any type of public hearing involving the budget. Those are items that are absolutely required by statute that you may publish on your city website, but you also have to go further and publish in an actual printed newspaper. When it comes to our official city website, we publish our ordinances there. All of our zoning amendments, our subdivision regulations, anything involving trash collection, ordinance publication. I'm trying to look for the things that we've done recently. Those are all meeting statutory requirements by publishing on our website. Going back to our resolution, which occurred in October of 2024, the council at that time said that we would use the Ark Valley News as our official city newspaper, but for if any reason Ark Valley was not able to meet those needs, for example, maybe we need to publish on a Thursday or a Friday, and that does not work with Ark Valley's schedule, then we would also use Wichita Eagle, use them as an official newspaper as well. If anyone were to ever not be able to use our website, it's not accessible to them. In our resolution, all they have to do is contact us, our staff, and we will gladly make a copy, print a copy, and make it available to them. We do have, regarding our website, a requirement where we are maintaining them for a minimum of 5 years on our website before anything is moved. And I know that there was one other question too. Oh, if we were charging people for any copies, and no, we are not charging anyone. So I've received multiple questions about that mentioned last week, and I just wanted to share that now.
Very good. Thank you. Just for clarification, there are no official publications in the Bel Aire Breeze. That's because Bel Aire Breeze is a monthly paper and statute require the publications to be in a publication that comes out at least weekly. So we default to the Ark Valley News for that purpose. But the reason that we wanted to move to the website was because not a lot of people get the Ark Valley News in Bel Aire. Some do, but not a lot of people do. So it just so you're clear on why we do the things like that we do. So move on to our city manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Quick Woodlawn update. As you know, 2025 was spent redesigning Woodlawn and working with our partners for funding agreements, especially KDOT. On March 5th, we had a pre-construction meeting. Don't usually go to those, but this one, sure enough, I was there. It was nice to see everyone like us, ready to get started as quickly as possible. KDOT did inform the group that there's a few smaller items that were needed for the change order that we looked at and worked on in December. To the city's credit, we contacted KDOT every day that week to make sure, and to KDOT's credit, they got it done really quick. When in December, when they kind of start to try to figure out what the construction schedule is going to be, they put out estimated dates. The estimated date was late March when we would start. After talking to the contractor, and now that the final change orders end, they're lining up their subcontractors right now. They're beginning shifting crews from their current projects to Woodlawn, and they're looking at about mid-April as the absolute start date. So as closer as we get to that time frame, the better estimates we get. But I would say mid-April is a good time to report that we're starting reconstruction on Woodlawn. On 53rd Street, we heard today, April 13th, they'll complete kind of phase one, we'll call it. Last council meeting, we discussed about a little bit of the complexities of this sidewalk that we're putting from Oliver to Woodlawn. The contractor is going to do the red portion that's up on the screen right now. We're going to stop short, and what stopping short allows us to do is to turn that intersection into a four-way intersection, put a sidewalk crossing along Woodlawn, and finish the sidewalk to Isley. We did meet with USD 259 last week, and they're in support of this layout, so that was good to hear. And when that construction schedule for the red part looks like it's going to end around May, so that times up really well with our 2026 street maintenance program, which is mill and overlay that portion of Woodlawn, so that we all do the changes at that intersection at one time instead of trying to put a crosswalk early and then go mill and overlay and then turn it into a four-way stop. So we're going to try to line up 3 projects at once, and hopefully that's better for drivers and for pedestrians. As it's been reported, Recreation Center Playground is up and running and very, very used. I appreciate as Councilmember Hamburg said, my Recreation Center and my Public Works staff for doing that. Also, a big shout out to Spring Festival, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after, the March 28th from 1 to 3. Lots of egg hunts, inflatables, yard games, kites, DJ, face painting, and I believe the Easter Bunny will be out for pictures as well. So always a good community event, and I welcome everybody to come. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there's not any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Henry? Hearing none, we'll move on to ordinance resolutions and final actions. The first item is consider resolution authorizing some gold bonds, or this is actually a change. This is industrial revenue bonds, I'm sorry, for Walton's facility, and related financing requires the city to subordinate its lien position to a mortgage held by SBA, that's Small Business Administration, and its lender. This type of financing requires the city to subordinate its lien position to a mortgage held by the SBA and its lender. So because Walton's owns the bonds and effectively pays itself through the lease and the bond structure, this subordination does not materially impact the city's financial position or security. So Mr. Kevin Cowan, our bond counsel, is here to provide more information and answer questions. Mr. Cowan.
Yeah, so you may recall late last year, the bonds were issued for Walton's Inc. and their new building in the city. Those industrial revenue bonds were reimbursement bonds. They essentially reimbursed Walton's for what it had spent on the project. And what it had spent on the project included both equity and sort of traditional financing. So that was left in place. And the way we accomplish that reimbursement and leaving that financing in place is to have Walton's purchase their own bonds, sort of deliver the completed project, get the bonds in return. Part of the financing that they've had in place is now going to go permanent financing with SBA, and is just part of the SBA process. Not surprisingly, they require everything they can get their hands on in terms of lien status. So even though this is, as was referenced, sort of a circular transaction, Walton's owes lease payments to the city as part of the bond transaction. City owes bond payments back to Walton's in the same amount. SBA still wants to be clear that they are the senior lien holder. And because this transaction took place earlier in time than SBA, it is technically in line first, so to speak. And so SBA has requested this. As the mayor referenced, the city's not losing anything in terms of its security. It's just allowing SBA, which is sort of the true financing on this, to take priority. And because Walton's is the bondholder, they're really agreeing to subordinate themselves to any other lien on the project. So that may not be the most clear thing in the world. And part of the confusing aspect is when you buy your own bonds, it sort of makes everything else you may be doing not as important in terms of lien status. The lease to the city and the payments back to you, you can agree if the city's amenable to allow somebody else to have a senior lien status. So I'll stop there. I'm sure you have some questions. I'm happy to address them.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Cowan?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a quick question. I mean, can you pull that onion back at all a little bit more? And since I've been on council, we've done a lot of IRBs, but I don't recall any such situation where we had a subordination situation. So is that common? Do you see that a lot?
It is very common with SBA. We wouldn't be having this discussion if SBA had been the original lender. They would have been in place first, and then the bonds would have come second, and we would have understood. And Walton's, as the bondholder, would understand, oh, we're subordinate to our other financing. But what is unique is they had the other financing, which was through Intrust. That had a first lien status. When we closed on the bonds, Intrust would have been first in line, and now that's going away and being refinanced with SBA. So some of it's just the timing of it. Right. And to your point, not unusual at all for there to be a mortgage on the property and then the bonds come later, as we've described here. But it is unusual for it to, SBA is going to come in later. Having said that, if SBA is involved, it is typical for them to ask everybody to subordinate. So it's really a timing thing. If SBA had closed on their loan in, June of last year, and then we do the bonds, they would have just been first in line and we would know all the bonds transactions are subordinate to them, but it really is a timing issue.
Gotcha. So this step a lot of times wouldn't have happened because they just would have been involved earlier. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. Thank you.
What's the reason that we would go through all these, a company like Walton's would go through all this exercise? This seems like a lot of moving the cards around to get no result or get the same result. I guess it really what it is.
On the bond side or some of their other, I think they had the SBA commitment for some period of time, but it just didn't get done as part of their permanent financing. And the bonds needed to get done in calendar year 2025 so they could start some of their incentives under the statute. And that's probably part of it as well. In hindsight, if the city could choose your tax abatement, your incentives start, whatever time period, we could have managed that and say, why don't you close on your SBA transaction, then we'll do the bonds. But because our statute says you close on the bonds in one calendar year, your abatement starts in the next calendar year, your property tax abatement. And that was important to Walton's because they had a completed facility and they would have been fully on the tax rolls starting this year. So again, it really is a timing issue where we're sort of forced to get the bonds issued in 2025 because the project was complete and they were still working through some of their SBA permanent financing. And now we're in, early 26, and that's when the SBA part is getting done.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I appreciate the timing explanation. It doesn't sound like this is anything unusual for the city. Would have happened anyway, just for timing. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the governing body of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas to consent to the subordination of the city's taxable industrial revenue bond series 2025B, Walton's 53rd Holdings LLC, to a mortgage and to authorize the execution and delivery of any other documents to effect the actions authorized in this resolution.
A second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Move on to concept design for multi-use path, which many citizens have shown up for this evening. So the city of Bel Aire received a $700,000 WAMPO grant to construct phase one of a multi-use path system. The originally proposed phase one alignment received significant public concern due to impacts on residential properties. In response, staff held a public open meeting and developed an alternative alignment to consider. The next step is for City Council to provide direction on whether to proceed with the concept design for the original plan, the alternate, or not move forward at all. So just to clarify, I'm not so much in favor or against the phase one plan, but I believe it's important to keep in mind that if we do not pursue this plan, that decision will basically eliminate about $1.4 million in future grants in the next couple of years. The reason for that is that phase two and phase three will most likely not be pursued without phase one. The option two of these three options on this agenda item repurposes the funds for phase one, and that is doable. But the issue with phase two and phase three plans is that as of now, there is no real possibility to repurpose those plans. The purpose of these paths is to be located along other existing streets that do not lend themselves to being able to move forward. Upgrade of those streets has not been designed, and without that design, installing a walk bike path is at risk of needing to be removed once those street upgrades are designed. This is about $2 million to build those walk bike paths that are at risk of needing to be torn out and with the street upgrades. So we just don't know what we don't know about these streets until engineers can evaluate each street section on its own merit. And of course, that's an expensive process, and we don't typically do those kind of analysis until we're ready to do design work. So that's just want to make sure everybody's clear about that part of the decision that we're making tonight. So, but do you have something to present, Mr. Henry?
Just here to answer questions and make sure we're clear on what kind of we're deciding tonight. As you remember, we received the WAMPO grant for about $1 million, 700,000 of it would be covered by WAMPO. In a November workshop, we had our 2019 master bike walk plan. We presented that and kind of said, how do you like this? And he said, let's ask the community again. And I appreciate the community members saying, let's do something smart, because I think the one smart thing, and I've told everyone at the beginning, is we spent $0 on this right now as far as city money. So what I'm asking for tonight is direction. Like, we need to have a design, a concept of a plan so we can go forward with that. There might be questions that we have coming from that design, that concept design, that we can answer, and we can ask more questions. But that's what we're trying to do today, is just give staff direction so we can attack something or nothing. That's really what we're asking for tonight. And I'll let you guys decide that particular element.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
Ted, before you leave, I was going to ask you a quick question. So option 2, there's language in there about coordinating with WAMPO to confirm eligibility of the revised alignment. You've had some initial discussions with them. How do you feel about their receptiveness to that at this point?
Initial discussions were very positive. They're accepting a change of scope. There's a little more process to it. The nice part is with our, I have access to Kristen Zimmerman, who was longtime employed with WAMPO, now with PEC, and she didn't seem like option B would be any issue going through WAMPO. I have not had a direct conversation with them, just with Kristen, who is kind of an expert in those sort of things. So I kind of trusted that.
Good. Appreciate you at least checking into that.
So there's been no discussion with Chad?
Not with Chad, with option B at this moment.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McIntosh.
Ted, could you also clarify something on option 2? We'd previously talked about it would run up from 45th, maybe make a loop around the rec center, and then up to Alley Park and do a loop around the lake. Is that the proposed alternate?
That's the general idea. Okay. And this one doesn't have the loop around Alley Park because it's an older, or it must have got cut off. But that's my idea, is combining our rec master plan, which is a track around the rec center, with this type of sidewalk, because we really do want to utilize that grant. And I'm afraid if we just do a short walk, it wouldn't fully utilize that grant. And if WAMPO was receptive of this type, that would be a smart way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, if you say in the rec center master plan as well.
Ted, just to clarify, we have an existing like gravel
Correct.
track that essentially would get paved, that exact footprint.
That's pretty much the idea of what came out of the recreation master plan.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
Maybe you just said this, but I want to hear Mr. Henry say it again. There's no way we could go to WAMPO. I thought WAMPO was very open to alternate ideas. So there's no way we could take those funds and do Woodlawn to Rock along 45th, for example.
I think you could. The risk that you have with that is you don't have an engineering design for the road bed. So if you put a sidewalk in there, you are at high risk of having to tear it out in a few years when you do a redesign of the road bed, because we don't know what we don't know about that.
Yeah,
Is that
that would be the only, I would certainly ask the question. I would just wonder the costs and what that would look like. And we can look at that. But then again, that would be a direction from council for me to receive that, go out and get those costs and those estimates for you.
Designing a road is what, $500,000 to $1 million for about a mile section. So, yeah,
That seems to be the going for the road bit.
yeah. So if you wanted to look at that, you're looking at another $500,000 to $1 million in engineering costs just to get that picture, right?
Just to follow up on that, I'm afraid there's only a half dozen houses or something with the option 2 path, but still, I'm afraid those citizens just haven't spoken up yet about it being in their backyard. We might have the same concerns.
So I'd like to follow up on that comment. A couple weeks ago, and then again this evening, immediately before the meeting, I went and walked this path, this alternate path. And the proposal here goes through a very, very wide section between backyards, and all of those backyards have fences. There's a very big area where this path would go. If I lived there, I wouldn't be concerned. All of you citizens here, your backyard is on the pipeline easement. I also looked at that area, and yes, you have very small backyards right on that very thin pipeline easement. So I understand the concerns. I don't believe there would be the same concerns with this alternate proposal because of the large area that's available.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean?
And Ted probably knows the answer, or maybe Paula or Ian. Alternate route is along a pipeline easement as well, but it's my understanding that that easement, at least I've looked on Sedgwick County land records, that Bel Aire owns or has use of that land. We're not acquiring any private property for alternate route.
And I did look at that. It's similar to you, and I can pull it up real quick just so we're 100% sure. But you are correct. When I click on the easement, it says City of Bel Aire owned.
I mean, part of it is going to be running along, is that hedgerow? I don't know. It's a street that you're going to parallel when it goes past Sunrise to the east, but at least the pipeline portion, the portion from the wreck up to Alley Park that I've looked at, it didn't appear that private property was going to be a need for at least that portion of the route to Alley Park. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and that's kind of where we want to take the design concept studies to get an actual map in front of you.
And confirm
As much
that.
as I love just drawing random lines on different easements, it's no fun, guys. Because I want an engineer to look at drainage, look at all those elements so that we say, this is exactly where it's going to go. This is exactly what it's going to look like. If we need some trees here to do some blocking, that's what we'll put in here. And we'll come with the full plan to not only you, but to WAMPO and provide them with that.
Is this a pipeline easement as well?
It is.
I just wanted to bring that up because I agree. I was kind of going along the same lines as Mr. McIntosh is. This route is very different. It doesn't appear we'll be acquiring much, if any, private property to do it. It's not going through somebody's backyard or splitting their yard in half or whatever it might do on some other properties. So, I mean, it's quite a bit different project, and it is connecting a future improvement along 45th to our rec and to Alley Park and to Oliver. If somebody were to want to bike up Oliver on the shoulders and then to 53rd. So there's a little bit of, I see a little bit of connectivity to it without having to go through the intense lift that is trying to acquire private property to go east. But it still feels like it could be a very beneficial recreational circuit. I guess I kind of look at it similar to, so Eagle Lake, we have Eagle Lake Park, there's a pond, there's a walk recreational path that goes along that. Central Park, same thing. We've got a couple ponds and a pretty significant path system that's not adjacent to a street, that's more recreational in use and safer. So I guess I'm leaning towards option 2. I'll go ahead and make a motion if nobody else wants to discuss, but I'm just leaning towards option 2 for a variety of reasons, so that we can see to utilizing the funding that we have been awarded, towards promoting our walk, bike, and roll recreation, see towards moving the bike ped plan forward in some capacity, knowing that phase 2 and phase 3 may or may not ever happen. This may be it for this specific thing. And I'll just kind of state, I'm really proud of Bel Aire. I think that I loved what I saw at the public open house. I loved all the comments we received, good, bad, and indifferent. I loved all the messages I got in email and the people that stopped me to talk to me about this and give me their feedback. It sounds like our community really cares about improving walk and bike infrastructure. And I think that's really great. I think what that shows you is we have an opportunity going forward to take that bike ped plan to another level. We can take it from just concept to really start putting in some work to route out some different options and different thoughts for a future of that bike path. But that's not where it ends. I heard a couple of comments and questions during the public meeting. That was a concept. And the idea is, I think, really just to help focus our city on investing in that type of infrastructure. And I would tend to agree with most people that where we can do that most efficiently is the best. And that's when we reconstruct roads. Unfortunately, we don't have $10 million just laying around. So we're not able to reconstruct roads, every year. And so it does take a while to get some of those improvements done. But I do think there are these opportunities in between those bigger projects to invest in it. So I really appreciate everybody's comments. I really respect private property rights and the folks that made sure we heard how that would impact them. So appreciate everybody at that meeting and tonight. And I'm leaning towards option 2.
Ms. Amber?
I was just going to say, after some folks showed up at our December workshop, I went and walked the whole path myself. And when you jog east there, it gets really tight along 49th and between Iron Gate, and even just talking with somebody who was out back enjoying that nice weather we had around Christmas. I was like, even the way they were enjoying it, I was like, oh, you're going to hate having a bike path this close to your house. So I was like that. I do not support option 1. That became obvious. I got tons of feedback up and down that whole corridor. So then that leaves you with option 2 and 3. It's a little bit, I want to acknowledge it's a little bit irrational because it's kind of like when you have a coupon or Kohl's Cash and you're like, we got to spend this or we're going to lose it. And so I thought about that, like, should we go with option 3? Is anybody dying for option 2 itself? The week before our open house last month, I went and put flyers out along those homes on Ashton, and they were going to back up there to that wider portion from the rec center to Alley Park to try to provoke some feedback. And so I did not hear anything negative after that. So that kind of relieved some of my fears there. The other thing I like about it is it does get you off the street. We do have a lot of young families. I've heard some positive comments of people in the neighborhood that have said, oh, that would be awesome. There were some comments back on the 17th about after it rains, Alley Park is not as usable. All things being equal, I like to leave things natural. We'll need engineering and draining studies even on that wide portion, but it's much less of a heavy lift than that portion going east as you approach Woodlawn. So I'm generally, I was between 2 and 3, and after having some recent conversations, I lean towards option 2 myself. The last thing I'll say is it is much wider, not just for construction, but also in terms of the security concerns. You can sit there on Parkhurst or from the rec center and have a line of sight, like totally down to Alley Park. So the last thing we want to do is build something and then have police say, we need an extra police officer to bike around this thing that's totally secluded or something. So I'm generally in favor of it. But just to clarify with Mr. Henry, tonight you're looking for direction. we're going to get some more answers to questions about what do we owe the pipeline even on this option B, and how disruptive it really will be, even in that wider portion. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, this is when you give me direction, and that's why I tried to say is I'll go spend some money to answer a lot of the questions that we were asked at the open house, kind of related to a little bit of our Eagle Lake Park volleyball court project, where we weren't sure where to relocate the volleyball court, so we took some stakes in Eagle Lake and laid out a couple of different options, and we really heard from the neighbors what they thought about volleyball courts in their backyard or at a certain location. And that guided the council to say, hey, maybe we put it in the rec center and reach out to other citizens what they might want about that volleyball court. So it's a little similar to that, where yes, we laid out our option with the master bike plan. We heard the feedback. You guys say, okay, maybe take the feedback and run with it or not. But this isn't in the discussion, because what I'm going to do is go get it preliminary design, preliminary engineering, however you want to call it, so that we can answer all those questions for you. But instead of spending a bunch of money up front, we want to have these community conversation, if that's what they want, and council conversation.
And Ted, if it's over your $15,000, you'll have to come back with us.
Correct.
To approve that.
Correct.
And then if you come back, if we spend the money to do it and they come back and either WAMPO says, no, we can't put the tracks in, which might change my decision on this too.
Yeah.
At that point, we could even stop and say, no, we don't want to do this. If we can't use WAMPO money for this, we have another stop point before we're not totally approving this tonight.
That's my plan. The other thing I failed to mention, and we talked about it at the February workshop, and Councilmember David asked me a question on email, and it's very important. We also were looking at 45th Street sidewalk, because we knew we were a little under that 80% at the time we were talking. Well, WAMPO has since increased that match donation or match grant for 45th Street. So 45th Street, not only the street, but the sidewalk is fully funded at the 80% level. So that's why we're even having this conversation right now. If not, we would have tried to divert those funds to 45th. But the fact that WAMPO was able to fully fund 45th Street project, now we're back into this conversation tonight.
All right, thank you. I think Mr. Dean made a motion, but I'm not sure. Did you actually make a motion? Because you talked a long time. And
I did not. I did not.
Okay.
Because I didn't think we had heard enough from the rest of the council. So I was purposeful to say I was leaning towards, but I will make one if the time's right.
Mr. Proctor, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add on, because I do live along the pipeline easement as well, and I'm with you guys. All your concerns, totally with you on that. The only other thing I'd add on is maybe just check with the Phillips 66, whoever would be the one to approve it first, before we even start designing, and say, is this something that would fly with you guys? Because I heard from another citizen that they recently killed some similar idea up in Valley Center, Park City, or it was another community that was nearby, is what I had heard. So just maybe better to start there rather than pay an engineer first.
Good point. Yeah. Good.
Other than that, I'm for option 2.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? If there is none, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I move direct staff to proceed with preparation of a concept design for the alternative multi-use path alignment and to coordinate with WAMPO and the pipeline company to confirm eligibility of the revised alignment under the existing grant award.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. McIntosh. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. On to item C. Well, okay. This is a resolution updating city sidewalk replacement program. And this has to do with sidewalks along people's property. So the state law places responsibility for sidewalk repairs on adjacent property owners. But since 2021, the city has offered an annual grant program to help offset those costs due to the broader community benefit. So following the 2025 program, staff is proposing updates for clarity and application review. The Community Development Director, Paula Downs, is here to discuss and answer questions. Ms.
Good
Downs.
evening. I'm bringing back this sidewalk replacement program for 2026 approval, but I wanted to provide some data and information related to the 2025 program that you approved last summer. So we have a $15,000 program budget. We had 9 applications received, 7 applications were awarded. Of the 7 applications awarded, we did just today or 2 days ago get the 6th invoice for completed sidewalk for a total of $11,564 awarded, replacing about 32 panels of sidewalk in the various areas of the community. One property owner that applied did not want to move forward with work at the current time for whatever reason. So applications that were not awarded, the property had damage on the driveway and not the actual sidewalk. And part of our program limits the ability for a nonprofit to receive, and it was an HOA that was in control of their sidewalks and they could not apply. So we also learned a lot in 2025 and are recommending some updates to the program. So during last year, because we are coming before you earlier in the year, we are asking that the work be completed by October 1. So that is appropriate and gives them opportunity to finish the sidewalk repairs in the hotter portions of the year versus last year when it was late and they were trying to do it in the winter. And then that'll also allow us October 1 to have all the invoices in and budget closed out for this program by the end of the year. We also considered some additional applications because we can advertise the availability of the program, and should there be funds available due to receiving lower bids on the work, we're allowing applications to come in until July 1st. And then if we have money available, then we can continue to accept applications and put people on a waiting list so we can award the full amount. We have, in the last couple of years, been under that $15,000, and we want to make sure that people know that it's available if they want to use it. And it also, the other thing that we are asking for is that they submit ahead of time a scope of work estimate that includes some additional data so that we better understand what the cost is going to be. We asked for an estimate or some sort of best estimate guess. And what we got was there was one that was over unexpectedly than what we probably should have, what we were expecting. And there were several that came in under. I had a conversation and an email from Councilmember Dean about modifying the language of square yards. After talking to some concrete companies, they typically put in their scope of work square yards of concrete, but we typically as homeowners talk in square feet language. So we're going to modify that language to square feet. I think it'll come out the same. We'll still have an estimate with the appropriate amount of concrete required, but it'll be a little clearer. And so the estimate, we also added in language that said that the work is limited at a per panel cost of $500. We found that on average, it was around $300 to $340. We gave a little bit of leeway in case there was a delivery charge, right? You have to order a minimum amount of concrete to come out, but sometimes if you don't, then they'll add a delivery fee. Otherwise, you wouldn't have one. So we just set a limit. And then we also, because we have been making some changes related to the permitting in general and clarification with the permitting in general, that a licensed contractor and or a homeowner can pull their own permit to do the sidewalks. We wanted to make sure that was clear this year. And then we also put in a little bit of a caveat related to if you're going to apply and we're going to hold the space for your application to be funded, and then you tell us September 30th that you're not going to do this work. After all, we put in a contingency that says if you don't move forward with the work, you'll be responsible to complete the sidewalk replacement at your expense. Otherwise, we need to do it before October 1. And the reason why I say that is Once the city knows that the sidewalk has been damaged, we've went out and verified that the sidewalk is damaged. The fact that they don't fix it creates a nuisance because they're required to do it. So that's why we put that language in there. But at this point, I'm recommending that you approve the 2026 sidewalk replacement program, including all the additions in the staff report and what I've discussed tonight. Happy to answer questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean?
I have a quick question, Paula, or maybe it's for Ted.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like this has been the problem the last few years, but what would happen, say we had spent 15,000 and somebody did honestly want to get something done, I had applied, would we turn them down or would we come back to council? Would we have a discussion? And I guess I would just encourage anybody that applies, I would like to see that work get done and move forward. And so I don't want to hold it up because our budget was arbitrarily 15,000. It could have just as easily been 20,000. So how would you handle that if that were to happen? If it was eligible?
And I think the way it was discussed last year was we would understand their application where we're at and come to the council and tell them where we're at. I think the fact that we didn't use the full 15,000 this year might influence us, but I think Paula does a really good job tracking this. And if we're coming on to that limit, she would notify me and we would get in front of council to say, hey, we're seeing a lot of activity this year. Cause I think the ultimate goal is to clean up our sidewalks. So we understand that as staff based on the discussion last year, but happy to change courses, but that would be what I would do.
No, that's kind of what I was thinking. I just wanted to confirm.
I think that's an appropriate way to handle that. One of the reasons we put this program in place was because we have a rule, I think it's an ordinance that says a new development, so you have to have a sidewalk on one side of the street, but the whole community uses that sidewalk. The person who has the sidewalk on their property has to maintain it, even though the whole community does. That just didn't seem fair to do it that way. So we can't change state law. And so we have to figure out how to work around that. So our city attorney at the time came up with this plan, and that's why this came up like it is. It hasn't always worked the way that was intended by council. I think we've made some good improvements, made some good progress there. And I think the improvements that you're suggesting, I think those are all good improvements. So thank you for doing that.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. McIntosh.
I think this is an awesome program. Helps keep our sidewalks in good maintained order. It mentions that if a homeowner wishes to do the work themselves, they need to follow all the rules. Can you quickly just tell us where those rules can be found for if a homeowner wants to go find them so they can follow the proper procedures?
Yeah, the proper procedure really is just that you have to pull the permit and follow all inspection requirements related to pouring concrete.
Okay.
We just don't require a homeowner to be licensed like we would a licensed contractor who's getting paid. So if you're an individual and you just have to pass your inspections and pull the permit appropriately.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. We also, I just wanted on a side note, when the code enforcement officer goes out and he notices it in his normal duties, right? He will also tell them about the program and encourage them to apply for the grant because, like I said, once we notice it, it becomes a nuisance that we have to make them aware of, and then we want to help offset that if we can. So several ways it comes to us.
Okay, if there's not any other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McIntosh.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution updating the city's sidewalk replacement program as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. McIntosh, and second by Ms. Hamburg. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
On to item D. So this is.
Mr. Mayor, can I get one? If you have your cell phone by a microphone, you might move it. I think that's a little bit of the static we're getting tonight versus other nights. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So sorry, the things I have on screen don't match the agenda in front of you, so I've got to make sure I'm talking about the same thing. Item D is the developer of Chapel Landing Fifth has requested privately design, construct, and inspect a segment of Central Park Avenue. So this new segment will be dedicated to the city upon completion. The agreement amendment outlines the responsibilities and ensures the work meets city standards with no upfront cost to the city aside from future maintenance obligations. So our city engineer, Ann Stevens, is here to discuss this and answer any questions.
Good evening. So this was, as the mayor said, this is something that the developer approached us with. They were just have a lot of Chapel Landing Fifth in. They're kind of running out of sites to build, and it's got the water, it's got the sanitary sewer, the storm sewer is already there, so it just needs a little bit of paving. They're trying to figure out how much to do, and they just came. It's about 200 feet, and kind of getting to where they want to be and cutting it off. This would be. The engineer that they want to use is one that we use very frequently on projects. Contractor is same way, so there's no concerns there. It would be done according to city standards, as the mayor said. I would be reviewing the plans just to make sure that everything fits correctly. So it's just a matter of revising the developer's agreement mainly for the funding sections.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
So just a quick clarification. So the additional cost for the 230 some feet of paving, would that be then reallocated into their specials or paid out of pocket? How is that being covered? Just to confirm.
It would not be a respread such situation. Those lots would just not be assessed the paving petition on that. Now, what does that do? Make your lot more valuable. So I imagine they'll sell that lot a little higher than the neighbors and
To
make
recoup
up
that
for it.
cost. Yep.
Which is more common in other parts of the country.
Right.
In this part of the country, we do this specials thing. A lot of places, they do all that work. Developers finances it and sells a lot at a higher price.
Yeah, I understand that. This is just a very unique situation to have that be requested by a developer. So I was just wanting to clarify that this isn't a respread, that it truly is their cost, which then they'll have to manage. Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
And this lot does have the water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer specials.
They'll still have specials for those or?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? If there is none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a
Proctor.
motion to approve an amendment to the development agreement for Chapel Landing Fifth Edition as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Proctor, a second by Mr. David. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item E. City current fireworks ordinance requires clarification, particularly regarding dates and times for sale and detonation of fireworks. This has caused confusion for residents and retailers, as well as challenges for the police in determining violations. So on March 3rd, the city council reviewed a draft ordinance and suggested revisions. The city attorney has included an updated ordinance and staff report in your packet. Hopefully this has everything you wanted in fireworks ordinance. I know Brandon's here with the 6 issues, and so that was a complicated motion. You did a good job with it, but
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McIntosh.
there were a couple other changes that I would like to make. I emailed earlier about them. I believe you received them, Maria?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just describe them here, but you have them. So in section 6.4.5 G, I'd recommend changing that whole section to remove the dates from the section for public displays, since those can happen any time of the year. and also update the ending time from 10 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. So exact wording, I'd like to change that paragraph to public displays shall conclude no later than 11:30 p.m. Reasoning for that, we received some feedback from Michael, who runs Was Up Fireworks. He does a public display, and in his words, it doesn't actually get dark until about 10 p.m. And so he wouldn't want to start his display before 10 p.m. and he needs some time to actually finish it. In my opinion, public displays, fireworks, are less of a nuisance than the general public detonating them right in your front yard. They're naturally more in a more secluded area, and they're open to the public, so they're less of a nuisance. So I'd like to see public displays allowed to go to 11:30. Moving on to 6.4.5J, the last sentence. Again, just removing dates from public displays since they can happen at any time of the year. I'd like to see that last sentence changed to all trash and debris shall be removed no later than 10 p.m. on the day following the public display. And then my last comment, we say fire marshal a lot in this ordinance. There were two different spellings, one with one L, one with two L's, just kind of intermingled in there. Let's pick one and stick to it. That's all.
Use his official title. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I agree with Councilmember McIntosh's changes.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Mayor,
Ms. Schrock.
I did receive some additional information from our other applicants, and I can share that now if this is the time.
Certainly, yes, especially if it's pertinent to any of these changes.
It was very helpful. I just wanted to let you know that all of the applicants were very thankful to the council for reaching out to them, being interested in their input. Many of them would have liked to have attended, but because of scheduling issues, they were not able to attend last week or this week. So you being interested in their thoughts was very impressive to them. They appreciated it. One of the comments made by Dennis Frasco, he said it was okay that I mentioned his name for his comments, was that he really does think that, especially with this year being the 250th anniversary, that appears to be the beginning of a lot of these conversations, that stopping detonations at 10 is not requested. And they think that that would be best to let them go a little later, 11 or even 11:30. So that was shared. Another one comment was the sign, the 3x3. That is not a problem. And they actually agreed. They said that, in fact, if you want to even add to the permit fee and the city provides this sign and they put it up, they're more than happy to do that. So that way they are posting the information that the city wants. The final comment made to me by him was that safety is important. Of course, they want debris cleaned up, but put out as much safety information as possible to the residents. Douse your fireworks, put them to the side. Don't immediately throw them into a trash bag. If you're going to be sharing information, try sharing some of that safety information at the same time. So I found that very helpful. I also spoke with Jacob Marietta with Wholesale Fireworks Enterprises. He was very excited for this year, 250th anniversary. He had mentioned the same thing. Is it possible to let detonations go longer? This is even with dark, waiting for it to turn night. Sometimes people get home late for whatever reason. This is the 250th anniversary. Perhaps consider changing those times the year after, but not the year of the 250th anniversary. He knows a lot about fireworks safety. He serves on multiple boards, and he is more than happy to speak to anyone here at the city and share that information so it can be shared on social media platforms, whatever the council decides. He also said that they already provide a sign, a 3x3, showing the detonations for residents. So he's absolutely on board with that because he wants to be a good neighbor to the city and make sure people understand what's lawful and what's not lawful. He also agrees with debris being removed. He thinks that's fine. He said, of course, douse and then remove. As far as the public display, it's consistent with what Councilmember McIntosh and the other applicant was saying. Is it possible to at least consider 11:30, 11:45? Because sometimes it doesn't get dark. Sometimes you have a technical difficulty. Sometimes you have people arriving late and you're wanting to let individuals get seated. So he was really concerned about that. And then the final comment is knowing that last year, the statute went ahead and allowed cities to lengthen the detonation dates. He thought it would be really helpful for this year. He told me with the 4th of July being on a Saturday, it would be really helpful if the city would allow on Friday, the 26th, to begin sales a day earlier, because many families may want to go purchase early and then detonate later. I did share that that was not something that council was talking about right now, but even so, he'd still like you to consider that in your discussion for tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'll just kick off our discussion following those comments. So question I had for Mr. McIntosh was, are we open to allowing public displays year round? I know it's allowed, but as a city, the suggestions you made was taking that off. Are we wanting to have public displays other than on July 4th in the city of Bel Aire? Because I guess that question would need to be answered in my mind if we wanted to adjust any of those items. I understand where you're coming from with them, trying to make it more open, but do we want that? And because if we do that, we're probably going to get asked by people to do public displays during New Year's and during other times of the year. So obviously we can take those from a case by case, but I guess my suggestion would be we should answer that question before we go making a change to the ordinance. And then as far as time, I tend to agree. I think on July 4th, public displays going till 11:30 makes a whole lot of sense. I think the others, 10 o'clock on all the days other than July 4th and 11 o'clock on July 4th, makes a lot of sense to me too. As far as expanding that time or expanding it an extra day, as far as I'm concerned, we've been more than willing to do. 2 years ago, we expanded it to match the sales dates, which is a whole week. I feel like we've been celebrating the 250 the last 2 years. So in my mind, I'm not super open to expanding the dates or expanding the time just because it's the 250th. I think it'd be nice if we had this and it was just kind of the same every year and we weren't making exceptions and all that stuff. But that's just my general feedback. Is maybe we just answer the question of, are we interested in having public displays on days other than the week of July 4th? And then those are my other kind of feelings on it.
To give you a little history, that section got a little confused in one of the drafts, and Mr. McIntosh's corrections actually bring it back to what it should have been. Okay, because that always was a public display. If somebody, school, church, organization wants to do a public display in September, they could do that. Okay, they could make an application and be able to do that. They have to. I mean, there are rules they got to follow. It's not just carte blanche, do it. But that was the reason that was put in there in the first place, and that was done before I was even on city council. And so somehow over the years, it got commingled with the rest of the fireworks ordinance, and so this brings it really back to where it should have been. So, but as far as the other times, it's really up to the council what they want to do as far as times. I can tell you, and it seems like every time fireworks ordinance is brought up, it's a long discussion, always. Okay, so and so we can go back and forth on this, or we can resolve this tonight, however you want to do it. It's up to you, but that's just the way fireworks ordinances always seem to be. So,
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
So prior to 2010, from 1980 to 2010, there were 0 firework days in Bel Aire. And then 2023 was the first year we matched it to sales. And so I remember at that time, and I still feel this way based on the feedback, that was a good compromise. I wouldn't be totally opposed to it, except for the fact that we're touching it again this year to clean it up. I don't really want to revisit it next year over the 250th. I think it's going to cause more confusion. The times do seem a little early to me, but I sort of think of it like we've built in a buffer. People probably aren't going to stop right at 10. you're gonna have a little bit of time before the complaints start rolling in. And so practically, I think we're gonna be bumping against that 11 PM anyway. I'm okay with how it is, and the comments I agree with on the public displays. So, I guess technically, I'd love for them to be able to sell year round. I'm not opposed to that, but we know if we sell year round, people will blow them off year round. And so that's the only issue. If they were going to buy them here in Bel Aire and take them far away, that'd be one thing, but our residents would not go for it. Like I've said before, any further than we've gone. So those are my thoughts, things.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? So if you're willing to do that, Mr. McIntosh, maybe you should make a motion to adopt it with the changes that you outlined and have emailed to Ms. Schrock. That's entirely your choice. So.
Okay. Well, Mr. Dean, are you satisfied with the discussion we've had on your questions, or?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I think the only question that kind of remains is, are we interested in public firework display happening outside of that week? It seems like we're addressing it as an open-ended, people could apply, but maybe we get consensus on that first.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, we had that out in Goddard. It went over fine. I mean, occasionally the Lions Club would use it, or if there was National Night Out, we had a big band out there, and at the end they do firework display. I thought it went fine, but we always reserve the right to say, no. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And I think this requires an application, and you do have the right to say no if you don't feel that it's the right thing for some reason. Yeah.
I think that's fine. I mean, I just wanted to have the discussion. Now is the time to have it. So
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
So Ms.
Hamburg.
Schrock, as of right now, if it's September and somebody wants, they can fill out an application for a public display.
This is probably my expert on that.
It requires a special license to be able to set off those, and they're actually consuming
That's right.
fireworks.
That's right. So to have a special show, you have to have an actual special license, and it's all laid out in code. We had to deal with that last year. I remember now. So it's kind of a bigger process than just
the normal
you
fireworks.
showing up to City Hall and asking. There's insurance, there's a special license, and I believe you have to have security concerns as well. So.
But it's doable and codified right now. So
Yes, yes.
we don't need to address it in here, you feel like, for people? Okay.
Good to go.
Okay.
I think we're good.
So just to clarify, we're happy with 10 PM cutoff every day of the week for general public. And we're moving the public displays to 11:30 cutoff. Okay. I will attempt this motion again. I'd like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance amending the fireworks code as amended. The amendments are section 6.4.5G shall read, public displays shall conclude no later than 11:30 PM. Section 6.4.5J, the last sentence changed to, all trash and debris shall be removed no later than 10 PM on the day following the public display. And all instances of the word fire marshal shall be spelled marshal with one L.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McIntosh and a second by Mr. David. Any other questions or discussions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And our next item, item F, is the municipal Water Conservation Plan for 2026. So this the Utility Advisory Committee reviews and revises the municipal water conservation plan annually. And as a wholesale water customer to Wichita, Bel Aire is required to submit this plan to Wichita. We also have to submit it to the Kansas Water Office. So the 2026 plan is now ready for city council consideration. So if there's no discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I'll
Parker.
motion to adopt the Municipal Water Conservation Plan 2026 as presented and authorize the mayor to sign and submit to the city of Wichita.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Proctor, second by Mr. Dean. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. I'd like to skip over to executive session, item 7A on the agenda, and request 45 minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
make a motion to recess into executive session to discuss with legal counsel and receive legal advice related to pending litigation. The discussion will be pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for legal consultation with Neil Gosh, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Invite Neil Gosh, Catherine Klumsky, city manager, city attorney, and city engineer. The meeting will be for a period of 45 minutes. And we will, the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 9:21 p.m.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Proctor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Executive session. Okay, we held an executive session. No binding action was taken. Let the record show that Greg David has left the meeting for the evening. Move on to item 11, consent agenda. So this consent agenda contains the minutes of the March 3rd City Council meeting. 3 applications for fireworks sales permits are also in the consent agenda. All 3 vendors have provided the necessary documentation and paid their fees. Final inspection of the sales locations will be completed by the Sedgwick County Fire Marshal a few days before sales begin. So any questions or discussion concerning the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Proctor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. On discussions and future issues, so renewal of solid waste recycling agreement. Mr. Henry.
So this discussion, if you read my report, we're not debating the contract right now. I just wanted to get in front of you before we start these negotiations, and it's kind of been a given. We've talked about it a little bit. I've actually had 2 meetings with the Utility Advisory Committee, which is kind of what they're for, is to help me with our utility rates as well as our utility processes. Waste Connections is in kind of a unique position in that they're not a sole proprietor based on our purchasing policy, but they kind of have a lot of industry contacts, meaning they have a landfill, regional practices. If you read my report, kind of go into the reasons a lot of our surrounding cities utilize Waste Connections. And then operational considerations, every one of you has a trash can in front. So if we were to somehow switch providers, all those trash cans we get picked up, and there could be some issues with that. So tonight I'm really just asking for, and it doesn't have to be a formal motion because we can include it in some language later, is authorization to just negotiate with our current provider, knowing that I've already reached out to a couple of other companies asking. One got back to me today and says, we're not quite in a place where we can compete with your current numbers. So you can see how this might be going down. Not that we're going to, not ask others and not negotiate hard with our current provider, but I wanted to have this conversation now because if you say no, Ted, go out for a formal big RFP process, I need to start tomorrow to get it by the end of May. So that's what I'm looking for, a small discussion on that.
Well, I think your market is fairly limited on who you can go with, but so I'm okay with that. But what others think?
I guess I should have said I explained a little more thoroughly at the UAC meeting on the 11th, and they agreed with just negotiate.
Yeah, Ted, I appreciate your write-up on it. I think that, if we were having significant issues with our current provider, I would think we should think hard about trying to find other options. But I think that most of the folks I hear are happy with the service, and we've had limited issues. So I'm in agreement for you to proceed with negotiating, obviously knowing that you have a strategic mission there to try to do what's best for our citizens and our rate as a whole city. So, but I'm generally in agreement with that approach.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. So,
Mr. McIntosh.
Yeah, I appreciate the write-up, all the facts in there. That was, go negotiate. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it was good. And then just to stress, people do not have to use Waste Connections. Everybody in Bel Aire can choose their own provider.
Correct. Still in early negotiations, I'm going to maintain that. And what we're looking at right now is it's pretty standard. The nice part is you can see what other cities get and compare as well to make sure all the same services. The big sticking point right now is when temperature gets 95 degrees and above, they would like to get in at 5 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. That's kind of been back and forth. We've heard a few customers complain, but overall, not that many complaints. So that one's a tough one for me. And then as far as rates go, there's a little different structure, but it's around 2 to 2.5% a year. Well, they started a little higher, but where we're at right now. So pretty much exactly what we've been seeing the last 5 years is they come in instead of coming in every year for a 2% raise, it would just be baked into our negotiated agreement going forward.
Oh, you have automatic escalation.
Exactly. So
just a hard number, not a CPI index or anything?
It's not a CPI index right now. So they have options where it's like the next 3 years, it's a 0% increase and then a 3% from years 4 to 10, which if you average that out, it's around 2.5. And then they have another one where it's 0% increase for the next year. And then another percentage where it's like 2.1 or 2.2%. So we're going to have to do, I know that's important to this council is to kind of keep around CPI. And, I guess that's what the Fed would like to see, a 2%. So I don't know what the historic, I can look into that. But now that you guys kind of gave me the full breadth, I can dive deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that it has to be CPI, but some reliable index, because nobody here has any control over inflation. So if you don't use an index, that's the way you say how we keep in correct pace.
The big one that we just got done is the curbside cleanups were maintained. That was a tough one to get by because I think a lot of cities are going to something different or they're asking for something different. So we won't get too far in the weeds right now while I'm still negotiating or working to negotiate. But that was a big one that we were able to come to an agreement on.
I want to say one more thing. I know we don't want to get too far in the weeds, but just while you're talking, sometimes people balk at that required recycling fee. I'd just be curious. I don't think we could get anywhere close to that rate if we didn't require it citywide, but I would just be curious.
Okay. And I believe that's in our trash ordinance. So like that would have to be adjusted if I wanted to.
You don't have to pay
but
for
I can still ask.
Right. I'm just curious.
Yep.
You don't have to participate, but you have to pay for it.
Yeah, Ted, just another thought on the CPI or the index or by year. I think it would be beneficial. I mean, we look at it on the water and the sewer on our rates, just having a responsible, I wouldn't say go crazy, but a responsible number that it's expected to go up. I don't know what that number is, but I would agree it'd be nice if it was tied to something, maybe even like a waste cost index or something that's more to that industry even. But yeah, I think it'd be smart to just have that known in the contract that this is what it is, instead of arbitrarily every year we have somebody show up and we've got to say, yeah, we'll give you 1% or we're going to give you 2% this year. I'd rather just know like what's the standard and just kind of measure it against the standard rather than arbitrarily deciding to give them 1% or 2% every year or not. That's just my thought.
Okay. Any other comments on solid waste recycling?
I got one more minor thing for you and then we're done, but we're getting all new computers tomorrow. I requested Adobe Reader so you guys can read on each one, but if there's any special programs you need on your council computer, let me know and I'll have them install it.
Okay.
Maybe the password.
I was about to say, hopefully I can log in next meeting. I'm a little worried.
I guess what you can do before you leave is go to the lock screen. No, I don't know. I'm going to be, yeah. We'll try to have some help here on April 7th. I'll try to have some help here on April 7th.
You have 3 weeks to come test it out after they get us installed, right?
I'll just come a half hour early and just plan on it being a problem.
All right. Okay.
You can install Outlook by default.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Dean.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Motion
Second.
by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Proctor, or Mr. McIntosh. And I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Too bad. Motion carries 4-0. We are adjourned. Have everybody have a happy Easter.